is Confessions of an SEO. Most episodes you'll find are under 15 minutes, and if they are as intended, these stories and observations may keep you thinking long after our time here. While I'm going to totally gleek out, that's a combination of expressing glee and geeking out about the launch of the indexer. But this episode in particular will also cover a sensitive topic regarding SEO testing. I know I can get all righteous and up in things that most people will want to not speak about, much less confront. So be prepared for some tough love offered to the SEO industry, specifically the testing community of which I am a part. Any opinions expressed here are mine and mine alone. Welcome to Season 4, Episode 48 of Confessions of an SEO. We are in the countdown to the end of Season 4. I cannot believe that we're staring down the Season 5, which will be here in about 3 weeks. It is pleasing to find Confessions is now played weekly in over 125 countries. Hello, world. Appreciate everyone who is sharing the show with their SEO friends and colleagues, because I believe we all deserve some time to get off that frenzied carousel of not missing out on anything that could land us on page 1. Oh my God, what was that? Mentality. Okay? So don't go telling me that that's not how you feel sometimes. This is a real discussion we're having, and you can really let your SEO hair down for about 15 minutes. Now, after that introduction, I'm sure you're all like, okay, what is all that about? But first, I want all of you to go to your phone or laptop, just not while you're driving, please. Type in indexzilla.io. And yes, it uses the X and the Z right next to each other. I honestly believe that by the time you are listening to this and get to that page, Indexzilla will have, hatched out of its reptilian egg and is standing on both legs. For anyone who doesn't know, Indexzilla is my baby. It's an indexing platform, and it's born out of the last 3+ years of my testing of Google's indexation system. I partnered with Roman Barnes, a fellow SEO tester from the very first organized SEO testing group. He is a serial entrepreneur who brings the technology that we all need to the table. So what I learned, this is the reason why we did this, so that the things that I learned can benefit other people and businesses that need to get their content indexed and no longer can rely on Google's indexing API. It's a perfect combination of chocolate and peanut butter to be working with him. I'm glad and honored to have his expertise on the team. When you do the same test every day, you learn a little something about how a system works and begin to recognize when a system doesn't work versus when reporting on a system is delayed. Without having to know anyone at Google or an inside track, watching Google over time do its thing, you can really get to know a system intimately and how it treats revised content versus new content, HTML versus JavaScript, why Search Console can say indexed and within a minute you see that. However, the content is not served or made findable by its keywords, maybe ever. This is the mud from which Indexzilla was born. So for the curious, there are 6 levels of subscription. A free tier, so you can try it out for yourself. The free account comes with 25 credits, and it is 1 credit per URL submission. I'll just do a quick run through. You can go to the page and find it, but a starter subscription is 1,000 credits. Basic is 1,600, professional 3,400, agency 7,700, and enterprise is 20,000. The paid plans start at less than 68 cents a day. So there are a number of features that are shared across all the levels. One of the ones I'm most glad about is the automated index checker that will tell you if your content was accepted into Google's index. And if not, you have the option to resubmit just those URLs that did not make it in. Now, it should go without saying that Google will not index everything, much less put it into their findable index. If you follow my work, you know that there's a distinction between what Google calls indexed and what the SEO industry has been using it for and calling it since day one. And they're, like I say, they're different. So why must we as an industry adjust the words that we have used for years? Well, we kind of have to, because since 2015, things have changed. In 2015 and before, indexing was virtually instantaneous. We'd launch a test, we'd get a result within less than 5 minutes. It would actually be faster, but we deliberately told people in less than 5 because we figured no one would believe us if it came back like before our finger was up off that enter key. So when it was instantaneous, we couldn't see the light between indexation and being served. They used to be synonymous, but they haven't been for quite a while, and the data shows it. Sure, it stinks to have to relearn something so basic, but I think as an industry and to clients of agencies, this ultimately will benefit us and our industry. If we can just describe what our customers and clients can clearly see and experience for themselves, we position ourselves not just as smarter or more on top of things, but more trustworthy. There is nothing more valuable nor so fragile as trust. Which brings me to the topic I cautioned you about in the intro that I would be stepping into. When it comes to SEO testing, it is critical to know who to trust when you hear claims of what someone found when they tested. I know I still need to write up the testing about the helpful content system portion of the Google rules, and if it actually reads the words between our optimizations. I have an episode on that if you don't want to wait for the write-up, but I will get that done. Now, I just have a few more things I got to get off my desk, but it is coming. And the reason I take a lot of ink, I guess that means less now than what it did when publishing meant printing. So let me just say space. When I write about a test or a finding or an observation, I do not write like each word costs me money. I believe that you need to be able to trust findings that are shared by the SEO testing community such as it is. I believe you need to know that in the case that if you're reading my stuff, you need to know that I know how to set up a test that accounts for things that might influence the results. So I don't ask you to take my word for it. I literally write it out, add in screenshots, and show you this is how I accounted for that factor. And then, I also explain the conclusion. You need to have factual evidence that if I were to use a term such as blank page, you know that I'm talking about a white blank page on the screen. I have often referred to SEO testing as the red-haired stepchild of SEO. Despite its relevance, importance, and potential to improve SEO practices, SEO testing has often been overlooked, undervalued, or treated like an afterthought because it didn't tell us everything about Google's algorithm. It was evaluated with all or nothing thinking. At least those were the objections when we started, when people would hear about our findings. They pretty much said our findings couldn't be trusted because Google's set of rules was so complex it made understanding them impossible for a human. The rules were indecipherable. We're at the mercy of the Google gods. Many of us worked very hard to dispel those sentiments, not through argument, but through the scientific approach that includes repeatability as an operational sign that what we were talking about were concepts that could be understood through observing the behavior of Google as rules and using transference and repeatability, as long as the same conditions in the setup were maintained in the future tests, we got repeatable results. Our conclusions were therefore sturdy and reliable. I believe there's something honorable in a group of people who could be, keeping their findings to themselves or simply focusing on things that make their agency money. Let's be honest. That's really important. But by banding together informally and sharing and moving this industry towards a perception of logic and science and away from being viewed as charlatans. And let's not forget, another essential aspect to SEO testing is and has always been the peer review, just like real science. So imagine the shock, sadness, surprise I felt when I saw the process of SEO testing being used not to collect data and sort it out into a conclusion, but to support an opinion justified by conflating what they wanted into a conclusion. All the while, without anyone else exploring other possible reasons in the setup that could also explain or inform a conclusion to what was seen. That was tough enough to stomach. But then to see other SEO testers, ones that I know. And I know they know how to do a peer review. They were not just keeping silent, which would have been damning enough, if they saw something and didn't bring it up as a peer. And I cannot address the motivations of why, but I can talk about what I've seen with my own eyes and heard with my own ears. It's not easy, SEO testing, in these contemporary search results pages in 2024. It is not the same as it was in 2015. And I am not making anyone wrong for running a test and coming to an insupportable conclusion when they haven't really been in testing for very long or in rigorous community tests. But for SEO testers that have, to see that they're supporting a conclusion that could be explained by basic principles in search engines, which I know they know because these principles are some of the very same they themselves tested in the past 8 years. I can think offhand of 3 alternative explanations that would at best have made the results inconclusive. I guess what I'm doing here is an unsolicited peer review. But here's the thing. SEO testing is something that I've devoted my work to and has informed my SEO protocols for almost 10 years. If I were not a tester at heart, I guess I could stop at making this a full-throated condemnation of what I see as an abdication of responsibility when it comes to SEO testing. But I'm a tester at heart. And if you know me personally, you're not going to be surprised to hear that since learning what was tested, I have actually set up a test that accounts for those 3 things that were not in the previous tests. To me, while I could argue practically all day on the ethics and morality of squandering years of building up a reputation for SEO testing in the SEO community, there is nothing to argue about when regarding the actual testing. The data can speak for itself. It doesn't need me, it doesn't need anyone else. So if a test can be set up to account for as much as possible, so the result can be attributed to only one thing, well, that's all that can be said. I guess the morality of this story is just like I learned, indexation testing showed me that once indexed wasn't always indexed. I also am learning that once trusted in testing does not always mean always trusted in testing. Whether conclusive or not, the basis on which we make our conclusions should include an informed process of peer review, only for the purpose of making a better test. And that, in my experience, is the fundamental aspect and purpose of testing. We may not ever get there, but I don't believe we should mislead others. That's it for me this week. If you need help with your site, you're not sure where to dig, text me. My specialty is forensic SEO. I find weaknesses in sites and bring solutions to strengthen them to create more success. To stay on the cutting edge of indexing, you want to check out Crawl or No Crawl on Substack. That is my I daily test indexation, and I share those results with people who are interested in that sort of back scene viewpoint. And check out Indexilla. You can find it at indexilla.io if you need content that you would like to get indexed. Thank you for being a listener. If you have any questions or topic ideas, I want to hear from you. You can text confessions at 512-222-3132. Thanks again. And until next week, I'll see you in the SERPs.